Hello and welcome to Together We F.E.E.L panel show here on the Embracing Layers Network. My name's Melissa Crook. I'm your host here. And today I've got two panelists with me who are newer to my community. One's brand new, our new friend, Carine Fabius. And then Jess Vanrose and I have done work together, and you're going to hear more from her as the year goes on. She's a podcast host as well. So she and I have been able to share time with each other on our podcast, and she's here with us on a panel today. It's a Come As You Are panel, and I was telling Carine and Jess before we got in here, I love Come As You Are panels because this is a space where we can come as we are, wherever we are, however we're feeling in the moment, feeling safe and seen and known and heard. And I think that is such an important thing for we as women to have, both on our own and also in community, knowing we're not alone, knowing that we can feel multiple things at one time, and also knowing that we have resources that we can share with each other, that we can share with you, that you can share with other women. I mean, it's just that real collective moment. So today in this Come As You Are, you're going to get some great resources from both of these women, as well as myself. And you're also just going to hear how we're doing. And hopefully that helps you to feel like you can show up safely that way as well. If you've got questions for us, I'm keeping an eye on the chat. You can put those in the chat and we'll address those as we go, but also know that these resources will be listed in our show notes following this live recording. So you can go back and grab those links there. We'll get as soon as I get off here, I'll get the show notes updated today, and all that information will be there. So if you're driving down the freeway and listen to us, don't worry, or you're on your walk and you don't have pen and paper or your phone to make notes in, that's fine. You can come back to this later. But today we're just going to show up as we are. It's Groundhog Day. Punxsutawney Phil said 6 more weeks of winter, but one of my staff members very pointedly pointed out that he's only correct 30% of the time. So for our friend Jess Vanrose, who's very, very cold, and our neighbors to the north in Canada, she's like, please, 70%, not the 30% that Phil said. Yeah. Carine and I are very fortunately in California. I'm in San Diego currently, and Carine resides in the LA area. So we are winning on the weather front. We are probably the only ones in the country winning right now, but we are winning unapologetically. But today for me and the Come As You Are, it's interesting. I had a beautiful weekend here. My husband had a series of conferences. He was actually in Carine's neighborhood last week in the Hollywood area, speaking at some conferences there. And then I came down with him to San Diego. I'm normally in Fresno, joined him there, and we have had the most beautiful time. We were able to take a little breather this weekend and enjoy the beautiful weather and the beaches and the restaurants, and just take a breath and be just in the moment and rest a little, which I know that I needed. We have stormed into 2026 as much as 2025 was wild and hairy in the world. 2026 is off with a notorious bang, and here we are. And so I have found that these moments to really settle my nervous system are even more important now than they have been previously in my life, over the scope of my life. And it's interesting when you're in a hotel room with your partner, at home we have our own TVs, we're moving around, we're doing different things. My husband has a much higher news intake tolerance than I do. And so I find I'm like, no. So he went into the bathroom at one point a couple of days ago. And while he was in the bathroom, I changed the channel. And he came out and was like, you changed it on me. I couldn't take it anymore. I was done. My impact, I felt, and my body was seizing up. I know I need a mixture of something else besides the constant onslaught. He just has a higher bandwidth for it than I do. And I don't notice it as much, except for when we're traveling in a hotel room and there's one TV. You're like, oh my gosh, it's time for us to leave now. We're going for a walk. We're getting outside, something. And so, so I think for me, it's just for the Come As You Are, it's like, it was just a reminder of the importance. And I'm so fortunate to have access to these spaces where I can get outside. But even, I was talking to our middle daughter is in North Carolina, and they are having winter in North Carolina this year. And she was heading out for a snow walk yesterday to get outside. And she grew up in northern states. So unlike most North Carolinians, she's very accustomed to the snow and the cold, and looks forward to it. Doesn't like the ice, but enjoys the snow and has all the right clothes for it. So and the sun was out. It was chilly, but she had her gloves on. She got all ready, got her snow pants on, and just went outside and played in the snow, and like a little kid. And just that. So even if you have to bundle up, I know it's frigid. I get it. Sometimes it's maybe you can't always get outside the way you want to in the wintertime, but finding those ways you can soothe yourself. And Jess is going to have some great resources for that as we go along, but really managing your intake of the onslaught of news right now. And I was talking last week, one of my oldest daughter's college roommates went on to be a psychologist. She's now Dr. Meg. She's been a guest on here on my podcast in the past. And she was talking about on her socials, and I think we're actually going to do a panel on it later this year, where you go onto social media or even just news that's online, and you're hit with all these levels of emotional stories. You get these beautiful stories and these tragic stories. And she's like, within a 2-minute span, you've been hit with all of these different things that are calling different things and the impact it's having on our systems, being in these emotional chaos all the time of one thing and another thing, and having the importance of stepping away from it. And there's all these studies about the impact that even just getting all of the influxes of the different kinds of news in such a quick moment, where you don't have any time to digest one before another one's in your face. So for me today, it was just a great reminder this weekend of the power of finding those things that nourish me. For me, nourishment is the ocean. If you put me by the ocean, my whole body settles. And I just has always had that impact on me. If you can't get to an ocean sounds. Or I know it's 20 below outside, but if it's sunny, look outside and put on some ocean sounds and pretend it's warm. I don't know. But just finding that thing and really noticing, pay attention to your body's responses as you spend more time on your devices or with news in front of you, and really make sure you're giving yourself what you need. So that's how I am, what I'm thinking in today's Come As You Are. Carine, how are you?
I've been pretty frustrated with what's been going on in the world, I have to say, especially because this week is the end of the temporary protected status for Haitians.
Yeah.
Per our lovely president. And that means Haitians are going to get sent back to Haiti, which is a mess and has been a mess for the last several years. Yeah. And especially since the president was assassinated and the country got taken over by gangs. So, thousands of people have been murdered and millions displaced. And they're saying, oh, Haiti's cool now, even though there's a travel advisory against traveling to Haiti. They're sending all these people back who were here legally under temporary protected status. So I feel like the world is a messy place, and we're in a very dysfunctional time right now. And men have been running the world for 2,000 years, and the patriarchal system, I just feel like it's got to go. It's got to change. Yeah. And because we need to approach life in a different way, because what's happening now between, the warming of the planet and, just, we don't need to go into all the horrors, but that was why I wrote this book, really, was because I have a book called Getting to a Better Place. And, the reason I wrote it was because my last book was called Short Stories About Us, which was a fiction book about relationships between men and women. And shockingly, I found that more men bought the book than women did. And
so interesting.
Yeah, I was so surprised. I'd run into people and they go, "Oh, I read your book. I really liked it." And then we talked, and I kept thinking, wow, men really do want to figure out how to get along better with their women partners.
Yeah.
So that's why I wrote this book. And so it's interesting because when I talk to men about the book, I see this glaze come over. Like, wait, everything's our fault? The men are responsible for all the ills of the world? And it's interesting because when they read the book, they love it because and the book is specifically targeting, and I'm talking directly to my target market is young progressive men, let's say 25 to 40 years old, who are not happy about the world they're inheriting, that they feel it's very dysfunctional and they'd like to have a hand in changing this dynamic, but don't know where to begin. And I have lots of ideas for them, right?
Yes.
So the book is written with love and humor and diplomacy because this is a touchy subject. So if it's okay, I'd love to read a couple of excerpts from the book.
Absolutely. No, please do. And I think before you do that, I'll be curious, and maybe this is going to come out in the book. There's so much conditioning that happens with little boys and little girls so early on that needs to be undone by the time you get into adulthood, and so many don't undo it. So we continue to carry on these narratives that haven't been serving us for thousands of years.
Exactly.
And women are 50% of the population. We all need to be involved in leadership, in decision making. We all need all of our sensibilities and our thoughts and so I think it's important to understand, it's like, we're not looking to wipe out men. We just want to have the same amount of voice involved here to bring this in. And we also realize these are inherited things and it's no one person's fault, but it is our fault if we don't dismantle and rebuild and do better. So I
think women are doing a better job, I think, of raising their boys. I think 66% of women in the United States identify as feminist, right? So they're teaching their boys how to respect women more, how to react differently in the schoolyard. But I think what happens is once those boys get to school outside of the home and they're in school or at work with their bros or whatever, there's this genetic male approach to the world that comes in, and there needs to be a reminder about how, what works and what doesn't work, So
toxic masculinity that comes in.
Absolutely. All right, go ahead and read.
Okay, so I marked off a couple, 3 excerpts. The first one the first one is 20 seconds. The second one is 1 minute and 20 seconds. And the third one is about 4 minutes. Is that okay?
Yes.
All right, great. So from the Merriam-Webster dictionary, patriarchy means control by men of a disproportionately large share of power. Men are not the problem. The problem is the disproportionate control men have on power, and that too many men refuse to share power even when it's clear that the current system is failing. Their attitude stems from a fear that relinquishing any control will diminish male influence. Not true. This isn't about blame, it's about better. A new perspective is needed. And I'm going to change my glasses because those are my computer glasses. These are my real glasses. So that was from the introduction. This is from an excerpt from a chapter called Ask a Woman. Millennial women do not believe that society has reached a point where men and women have equal opportunities for achievement, but millennial men do. This is according to an ongoing survey by the University of Chicago that examines millennial views on societal and political issues across race and gender. Interestingly, although women fighting for equality encompasses the definition of feminism, many women avoid using the term because it has become associated with man-haters and ball busters. So I was surprised to learn that as of 2023, 16 governments across Northern Europe and places as far-reaching as Latin America, Africa, and Asia had formally adopted feminist policies. Prioritizing women has a proven track record of helping nations in the areas of peace building, stability, conflict resolution, and economic growth. To be clear, helping nations translates to helping individuals, including you. So I can't help but ask, when it comes to finding new approaches to the most pressing issues of our time, why not ask a woman? Okay, and this is an excerpt from a chapter called How to Get Sex and or a Life Partner. We're talking to men. Okay. As the book title suggests, getting to a better place requires men to challenge the patriarchal mindset, to shake it up, turn it inside out, and view it from new angles. This chapter explores how men can improve their sex lives and or find a life partner while simultaneously dismantling patriarchal thinking. Now hear this. Shaking things up does not mean losing your masculinity. We love your masculinity. So if a man wants to know the secret to getting someone into bed, it's simple. Listen. If listening doesn't come naturally, here's a quick guide to mastering it. When engaged in conversation, make direct eye contact and act as if every word they say is fascinating. If that sounds counterintuitive, bear with me, it'll make sense. Follow up with thoughtful questions about their topic. Share your own perspective, but avoid lecturing or acting like the expert. Ignore distractions and focus solely on the person in front of you, making them feel like the most interesting individual in the room. If you do this well, they'll feel truly heard. This isn't some new revelation. Don Juans throughout history have always included listening in their art of seduction toolkit. And here's the good news. You don't need movie star looks or a flashy wardrobe to make this work. Whether you're 5'2", balding and wearing last decade's shoes, this technique increases your chances of success. It won't work every time, but you'd be surprised. Ever wonder how a total schlub ends up with a knockout? Often, the answer is one of two things. He's rich or he listens. Women adore being truly listened to. It's rare. They're so accustomed to being objectified that when someone values their thoughts and not just their looks, it's an irresistible turn on. What brings men and women together romantically can also serve as a blueprint for creating a more equitable society. But listening shouldn't be used solely as a tactic for scoring. That's straight out of the patriarchal textbook. It should be part of a larger shift toward valuing and respecting women. The point here isn't to teach men how to emotionally manipulate their way into bed. Those who use listening as a mere tactic will eventually pay the price. Karma's a son of a bitch. The real message is this. Learning to truly listen will make you a better partner and a better person. Many men are great listeners. Love those guys. But for others, it's not second nature. Hello, mansplaining. If that's the case, pretend at first, fake it till you make it. Helpful hint. Rearrange the letters in listen, and you get the word silent. Now, if guys want to know how to get sex and keep that person as their forever partner and attract female allies in the fight for a better world, they must practice the true art of listening. That means paying full attention when their partner talks about her day or shares a challenge. It means resisting the urge to tune out or dismiss her concerns. Listening isn't just an act of courtesy. It's an exchange of energy, a spiritual practice that can lead to profound insights and breakthroughs. If you think you already know what your partner is going to say, you're only listening to yourself. And that's the least sexy thing on the planet. Engaging in real conversations means honoring the other person's perspective. Even if the words sound familiar, life has a way of speaking to us in unexpected ways, imparting wisdom we might otherwise miss. Creating meaningful change, both personally and globally, starts with listening. It expands perspectives, fosters understanding, and opens pathways to progress. Men who resist listening, who fake interest while secretly rolling their eyes, are missing the point. If they can push past that resistance, they might gain something invaluable. Not all women or men are brilliant, but sometimes the most unexpected person can drop a truth bomb that changes your life, and maybe even the world. Big changes start with small shifts. Why not give it a try? At the very least, it might get you laid.
I love the approach you took here, because it gets their attention, but then it goes into that deeper conversation that at the end of the day, that wanting to be heard, wanting to be treated as if you are worthy of being heard and seen and known. And those little movements, like I work with a group of college women in the Craig School of Business at Fresno State as part of a community advisory group that helps prepare them to go out into the world and go into many times male dominated spaces in the careers they've chosen. And I talk to them all the time about, looking for the allies, but also being the one who, if someone's interrupted, if you're saying something and you're seeing somebody get interrupted, stopping is like, I don't think Jane was finished it. And then and if men can start seeing that too, and mean like, this guy over here continually interrupts the women in the room, or the younger women that are newer and not as confident or experienced. So but that listening piece, that's how we learn from each other. That's how we build community. That's how we build trust. I mean, trust in a relationship is built on that lasting trust. But I love the angle you took on that. That is, I feel like we could have, well, you're going to be a podcast guest someday, so we'll get into all of that. So stay tuned, people. Come back for more time with Carine on diving into how she got to the place of having the wisdom for these approaches. We're going to come back around. We're going to let Jess share, and then we're going to come back around and we're going to ask each other questions. So Jess, we've given you a lot to think about, and hopefully you're feeling a little warmer up there.
I have my fuzzy slippers on, and I do have my fuzzy blanket sitting right behind me just in case I get too cold. So for everybody who hasn't met me yet, I'm Jess Vanrose, and I hold trauma-informed spaces for women who are learning how to come back to themselves, and I host the podcast Life After Trauma. You guys have given me so much to think about. Carine, I also wanted to add on to what Melissa was just saying, that approach, like the listening part, it allows us, when we feel like we have been heard, it allows us to also feel seen. And those two things, feeling like you're heard and feeling like you're seen, are like game changers. That is how you can actually make change happen in anything. So that's incredible. I'm definitely going to have to read your book because those excerpts sound incredible.
I think women are the ones who are going to buy this book for the men in their lives, because there's women's strengths are affirmed throughout the book. So women love the book, and they're the ones who are going to get it into the guys' hands, because once the guys read it, they love it.
Yeah.
Well, exactly. And all they have to say is, this will tell you how to get sex. So,
But then it's a great hook. The hook is, and then then the learning really begins.
Right.
Yeah. And Melissa, the news piece that you were talking about. So what I'm about to say might be controversial. I don't watch or listen to the news anymore, or very, very little, because of exactly what you were saying. I got to a place where it was just too much for me. And like, I was somebody who I prefer podcasts. So I would listen to a news podcast every single morning when I was getting ready. But I found that every day I was bringing that weight into the day with me. And I never, like, it affected me so much throughout the day. And when I tried one day, I was like, I'm just not going to do that. And instead, I'm going to put on some music or something. And I had such a better day that day. And so I just continued carrying that forward. But I just wanted to offer permission to everybody to not listen to the news if it really affects you, or like skip a day, or like Melissa did, it's like, I've hit my limit and that is enough.
Yeah. And you've got resources that really help people with this.
Yeah. So I created a meditation series. And it was created from a place of my world being turned upside down. And I felt like I needed some extra support. So the series is called When You've Been Holding It All Together. And there's 5 different meditations in the series, and they take you through different states that you might be experiencing. So we have, the first one is when you've been holding it all together. Then we move into when fear and uncertainty take over. Then when you feel overwhelmed and can't turn off your mind. And then when your emotions feel overpowering and out of control. And then finally, when you feel disconnected from your body. Yeah. And so you can like listen to it in the whole arc, which will kind of take you through, or they can each be listened to as like standalone practices. But yeah, my hope in making it is just that it will allow people to bring that sense of like calmness and presence, and just come back home to yourself, Yeah.
Well, you shared them with me last week, and they're very powerful. And I listened to them as a collective, but I also, it's in my like library now. Like I know back, and if you listen to them separately, they don't take long. They really do settle your system. They bring you back home to yourself. And they're really powerful. There's going to be a code in our show notes that Jess has generously shared with us to get access to those. So that's going to be there, along with how you can get a hold of all of Carine's fabulous work. But we're going to circle back around. I'll let you ask questions of Carine. I'll let you ask Jess questions as well. But going back to at the beginning, Carine, you talked about what's happening to Haitian people that came to the U.S., and this is a topic that's very near and dear to you. And it's also, ironically, my editor that works for me, and his sister was my original co-founder. They are Haitian American. Their father runs a online newspaper. His work is online news for Haitian Americans out of Haiti regularly. So he's very, very involved, very knowledgeable, very entrenched in this. And so I'd known that this was coming from my contact with them, and then hearing it from you. And I think it's just, this goes back to this piece you were talking to. We have to start listening to each other's stories, and we have to not think we know someone else's lived experience. It is by listening to people's lived experiences and stories that we are then able to create things that are actually effective and humane and kind and empathetic and thoughtful, and not White people are notoriously horribly guilty over the years of thinking their lived experience is a lived experience. And if someone else isn't having their lived experience, and that's their fault or their problem. No, it's not equal. It's not equitable. It's not the same. You cannot understand someone else's lived experience that you have not lived. And so it requires deep intentional listening and surrounding yourself with people who do have those lived experiences so you can actually make meaningful decisions about how to help support and create a safer world. And so that is my soapbox thing today. But I tell people all the time, with the resources I offer, I help women really come back to themselves and know their value and know their worth, and a framework that helps them live in alignment so they can come back and ask themselves these key questions I give them throughout their lives to ensure they're doing that. But everybody needs to do this work on themselves, because it's by doing your own work, knowing your own value, embracing your own layers, that you are able then to be open, because you're not insecure. You're not coming from a place of fear or threat or old tired narratives that aren't actually true, that you just were told as by the culture and society you were surrounded by, but they're actually not true. Unpacking, unlearning, and relearning, coming from a healthy place, you're then more empathetic, more curious, more willing to listen and learn from others. But it requires each of us doing our own work and knowing how important that is. But I think that these resources that Carine offers through these books, and also, Carine, art isn't a big part of your life. So talk to me about how art really supports your wellness.
Well, so when it comes to Haiti, so I have a Haitian art gallery in Hollywood, and have had it for 35 years. And it's my passion project. Sometimes I make money with it, sometimes I don't. It's a labor of love, and sometimes it does make great money. For years I was selling, 10 to 16 pieces at every exhibition, which is like any art dealer would be proud of that. And then you have these periods where nothing happens.
Yeah.
But for me, it's not really about the money. It's about showing another side of Haiti that people don't know about. I'm passionate about showing the side of Haiti that is about its culture. Haiti is a nation of artists. People don't know that. People know that Haiti is poverty-stricken, that there's political instability, and then there was that horrible earthquake where 200,000 people got killed. It always seems like bad news coming out of Haiti. Mm-hmm. But the most amazing thing about Haiti is that it is one of the biggest sources for Black art in the world, relative to its size and output. I tell people, if you go to Haiti, even if you hate art, you're going to come back with 5 pieces of art. You're going to come back with 5 paintings, because there's art everywhere, all over the streets. Everybody's making art in Haiti. There's an artist born every single day. Haiti's a nation of artists. So that's it's my passion to introduce this side of my country to people. And we've been so under attack in this country since the man at the top to call us a shithole country, and then that we eat cats and dogs, and just all of this, just this horror show, and it's like there's like this new narrative that's being written about Haitians and about immigrants in general.
Yeah.
And this country is a country built on the backs of immigrants.
Absolutely.
And they want to make it an all-white country again, and they want women to there's conversations about taking the vote away from women. It's just nuts. But the thing is that Haiti is a great example about how, if you are exposed to and have opportunity to be educated, you can become anything you want. One of the artists that I've shown in the gallery, she came to the United States in the womb on one of those horrible boats that often get caught and sent back. This was, of course, years ago. She's 40 now. But her mother was pregnant with her, got on one of those boats in Haiti because it was so terrible at the time, came to Miami. Her daughter went to school, became, studied architecture, and then decided to go into the fine arts realm instead. And she is a thriving artist whose work is imbued with with her love of architecture. And it's like, anybody can become anything they want, maybe, unless destiny or fate has something else in store for you. Because, that's another thing that I think about a lot too lately is, this whole idea of the law of attraction, that what you think about, you bring about, and that whatever you want, you can manifest in your life. And intuitively, I feel like that's true, but I think the whole thing is a little too mysterious for us to know how it actually works, because I know sometimes I'm able to manifest things that I need in my life very easily. And other times, no matter how much energy I put into it, I recently did a meditation for 8 months, after reading one of Joe Dispenza's books. I don't know if you're familiar with Dr. Joe Dispenza. This great book called Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself.
Yeah.
And I wanted to work on no longer having insomnia. So I did all of this meditation every single day, did everything the book said to do. It was like 45 minutes every day, journaling, focusing. And I had lots of breakthrough moments and realizations about why I wasn't sleeping. But it still didn't work. It didn't work. So there's this, we also have to surrender sometimes to what, if you're born into abject poverty in Haiti, this is the life you've been given, and maybe you can get out of it, and maybe you can't. And so there is an act of surrender while we continue to create what we want for ourselves. If you can't get what you want, then you have to, going back to what Jess was saying, is figure out how to find that peace within yourself. Because there are people with terrible diseases, and there are people with lots of money and everything on the outside, and they're still miserable, right? Yeah. So it's about being able to find your center. And I've been on a spiritual path since I was 20 years old. And I've been meditating, for a long time. But sometimes it just takes more effort, right? Lately, my prayer has been, just the last few days, please, this is my humble request. Let me have an experience of what I truly am, who I am, through nature, not what I see in the mirror, what I like to eat, or what blah, 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 what I do in my life, but having a sense of, where do I get my peace? I talk about it in the book too. It's like in this chapter on aging, it's like happiness has a really good PR agent, because happiness is not what we seek. What we're looking for is peace.
Absolutely.
Regardless of our circumstances.
Yeah.
I'm all over the place here. But Jess, I really want your meditations, because that's exactly what I need right now.
Yeah, absolutely. I will send you a link. And what you just said, it ties in so much with what I wanted to bring up today, because I've been thinking a lot lately about how many of us are going through something heavy silently, while we are wanting to be seen as holding it all together. And so you mentioned diseases. I just got diagnosed with an autoimmune disease that I'm going to have for the rest of my life. And so it's been this whole shift of learning how to accept my new reality without letting it become my identity, and knowing that there's a difference between acknowledging a hard season and letting that define me. And I just, I feel like that ties in a lot with what you were just saying. But
Yeah.
And this is very new for you, Jess, too. Like she's not like, we're talking, weeks in. Yeah.
It's been, I think maybe 6 weeks now.
Yeah.
So I'm just starting my treatment, the long-term treatment now. So, it's been a lot to take in. But I know that I'm not the only person who's going through something like this. And even if it's not a health diagnosis, like just people are dealing with heavy things all of the time. And I guess it was just a realization that I had that was like, how many of us are just like walking through our day feeling so like torn up inside, but we're still showing the world like, yeah, I'm here and I'm together.
Yeah. Right. Are you willing to share what it is, or would you rather not?
Oh, that's okay. So I have Crohn's disease. So
and painful.
Yeah. It has been. Thankfully the treatment is helping a lot. So I don't have a lot of pain now, but this past year, like 2025 was awful. So it's definitely, we're improving. Things are moving up. So that's good. But I think it's just, I want people to know that, like, even if you are going through a hard time, and for something that can be like so challenging on your identity and like even relationships, just like everything, right? You can grieve the life that you lost, the pieces that you've lost, and still not let that become who you are.
Yeah. You and I talked about that a lot in our conversation a couple of weeks ago. And it's about that, not allowing and that's why it's so important that we are grounded in our value, grounded in who we are, that we deserve to be seen, known, and heard, that we are worthy, that we, not based on how much we output or production, but because we exist in the world, because we're a human, that we have innate value because of that, and that we get to choose how we respond. Going back to what Carine was talking about, you can't, there's not always an avenue out of your current situation readily available. So what can you do within that to choose yourself, to choose ways to find contentment, to find peace, to stay hopeful? Because we can simultaneously grieve and be hopeful at the same time. And we don't always give credence to that, of just making space for all of those emotions and going. And I talk all the time about, listen to your body and trust her. We've been told as women not to trust ourselves, not to trust our bodies. Again, going back to those long held narratives that are in our culture, very patriarchal, driven about what is and isn't possible. And we need to blow all of those out of the water, men and women. Pay attention to yourself. Listen to yourself. Trust yourself. Trust that when something doesn't feel right, even if you've been told it is right, if it does, there's something to be paid attention to there. Give that the attention it needs. Get curious about that. If fear is driving something in you, get curious about that. Where's that fear coming from? Because we weren't intended to be driven by fear. That was not the point, of our being here and being created. I feel very strongly about that. And after living years within faith spaces and narratives that were very fear-based to keep you in, behaving well, I got very curious when I turned 50 and went through this whole kind of wake up moment through various health challenges and whatnot. That drove me to curiosity over judgment. And that was in thanks to my therapist that pointed me in that direction. But being very curious and open, because it's exactly what Carine said, this whole happiness thing is really it's a word to grab your attention, but it's more about the contentment in your situations. And that comes from being grounded in your value, regardless of what roles change, what happens to you, from a job role, a relationship status, a health status. You're still grounded in who you are and know your innate value.
Melissa, those three things you just said, I lost all of those in 2025.
Yeah. I mean,
and like, yes, exactly. That's why I was like, okay, I need something.
Because that is that's life. Life is going to life. And so going back home to who you are and having that be your foundation is imperative, because it's going to try to knock you around in all these different various ways. And I think just also the awareness of others around you that creates when you're grounded in yourself. You know, my husband, the other day, we were out on Coronado Island. It was a beautiful sunny day, and there were all kinds of families out there at the beach with their kids from all kinds of backgrounds. And you know, the beautiful thing about being in California is there's people from all backgrounds, all cultures, multiple languages. You're hearing all around you. It's a beautiful collection of people. And my husband was like, he's like, I have this time that we're in the world, and it's specifically in this country right now. He's like, I have this whole new appreciation, respect, and kind of just in awe as I listen to all these people talking in the different languages and cultural narratives. He's like, I'm a white, cisgendered, middle-aged man, and I can't imagine how terrified they must feel all the time. Mm-hmm. What is it like to live in a constant where your nervous system is just on high alert all the time? But they're here at the beach today, and they're enjoying this time with their family, and they're not letting it take them out. And it was just, he's like, his awareness, I'm like, yeah, you're absolutely right. And so it's so imperative for our nervous systems, we find our home within us.
It's something I say in the book as a piece of advice. I mean, at the end of every chapter, I have like this plan of action, which kind of sums up everything I said in the chapter. Here's what you need to do this, if you want to get to this place, right? And what I tell them is, it's what we're talking about right now too, about, getting back to your center, getting to a place of peace. It's like, if there's a behavior you're trying to change, it may not happen the first time you do it, or it may happen the first time you do it, and then you fall back into the bad habits, and whether that's interrupting women or thinking that women who wear short skirts just really are trying to get laid, or I don't know, whatever, these kinds of generalizations about women are. Let's say you fall into that behavior, just bring yourself back out of the red zone again and again and again. The same thing for exact what we're talking about now. It's like, if I get depressed because I had another bad night's sleep, it's like, well, go take a nap, or sit and meditate for a while and get back to a place where you can feel better. That's the purpose of our life, is to experience joy, no matter how we get there, no matter what's going on. And there's that famous quip from, I think it was George Burns, about, quitting cigarettes is easy. I've done it 1,000 times.
It's so true.
Yeah. So sometimes you might have to drag yourself out of the red zone 1,000 times, but that's the action worth doing, worth taking, because what's the point of being on this planet if you're just going to focus on everything that's bad about your life, and it's harder if you're in pain, for sure. Mm-hmm. It's really hard. But I mean, it's like, if you have terrible pain from Crohn's disease, or you have a tumor that you have to deal with, or maybe it's just a stomach ache, you're still in pain. Mm-hmm. And you still have to figure out how to make yourself get to a place of peace. Really, that's the with whatever life has given you, which is not easy.
No, I'm so glad you said that, Carine, because it's taken us years to learn how to operate in the way we are. So when we go to make a change, we have to be very patient with ourselves and very insistent. And I recommend, if you're sometimes getting an accountability partner. I had a terrible habit of saying I'm sorry about everything for years. Drove my husband crazy. My therapist and my husband tag teamed that my husband would be it was during COVID, so he was working from home. He would be my accountability partner on every time I said I'm sorry for something that I shouldn't be saying I'm sorry for, that I had to rephrase it into one actual true statement. It took a year and a half of very intentional accountability for me to break that habit. I'll do it every once in a while now, but not very often. And if I do, I catch myself right away. But a year and a half of very intentional. So it might take going back to what you might have to go back to the red zone 1,000 times, but it's worth that time and commitment to yourself and to the world and to the people around you and how it's going to impact them and you showing up in this healthier way.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, and also I want to add to that's completely normal that you're falling back into the red zone. Like it's not like you can snap your fingers and you're never going to do it again. That is the normal pattern. Like you're going to make that choice and then you're going to slip back and you're going to make that choice again and again and again. And it's just consistently showing up and making that choice.
Yeah. All right. Do you two have any questions for each other? Carine, any questions for Jess? And then Jess, any questions for Carine?
So Jess, how is there a practice that you have? Like, how do you come up with the meditations and that you offer to people?
Yeah, so this one, it was through this whole process of especially the diagnosis, but like everything that led up to it. So 2025, like I mentioned a little bit before, was a very hard year where a lot of things were lost. And I just felt myself, by the time that I got the diagnosis, I felt myself really just needing that extra support. And I just, honestly, I think it's just a lot of like awareness and paying attention to my body and knowing what I need. And one day it was, I don't know if it was a shower thought or if it was just something that popped in my head one day, but I was like, I need to make meditations around nervous system regulation because like that's exactly what I'm needing right now. And I know that if I'm needing this, then other people are needing this as well. And yeah, I sat down and I was really intentional with each meditation because I do come from a trauma-informed background. So I wanted to be very careful with the wording and how it has been put together. So they have been created from a very gentle, intentional place. And yeah, hopefully they can help people.
Awesome.
Yeah. And Carine, we have to go back to the art for a second because I love art. And so I'm really curious, like, do you have art pieces yourself? Because you mentioned that Haiti is the country of artists. I'm curious if you've made any.
Oh, I do not make art. You would not want.
No. Okay. Okay. Well, we might need a list of some Haitian artists to check out.
Oh, well, I have a wonderful gallery, and in fact, I'm about to launch today. I'm going to send out an email to our mailing list that we're going to have a 35% off site-wide sale.
Oh, wow.
Our gallery website, I'll send it to you so you can
Yes.
maybe add it to the links
Yeah.
from this conversation. But the gallery is called Gallery Lakai, gallery with the French spelling. Lakai is the Haitian word that means home. So it's like gallery from back home. And it's also in our home, the gallery. So it's like a play on words. But I have lots of art, lots and lots of art. We represent lots of artists. The gallery's permanent collection has probably 300 pieces in my basement that I don't have room for on the walls, and we change it on a regular basis. So we are definitely a source for beautiful, beautiful art, not just by Haitians, but also by Mexican artists, African artists, Cuban artists, all kinds of people of color. So
that's amazing.
It is. All right. And that information is all going to be in our show notes. But before we wrap up here today, I'm going to give you each a chance to share a last thought and then where people can find you. And then, of course, like I said, that'll be in our show notes. So just a last thought and where people can find you.
The last thought I have is one that might open an entire other conversation. Oh man. Okay. Let me think here. I think if we go back to, you were talking about the trust piece. And I think the part that I would just like to add to that is that, like, each time that I choose to not abandon myself, especially by listening to my body, I build trust with myself. And that trust, like, builds up my sense of inner safety and security, which for me, especially right now, is very important because, everything is seeming a little scary at the moment.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I love that. So good. And where can people find you?
Oh, yes. So best place would be my website, which is jessicavanrose.com.
Okay, perfect. And Carine, how about you?
So I feel like the most important thing for us as human beings is that we're here to serve each other and to be here for each other. And hence the name of the book is Getting to a Better Place. And I'm really into how to help people get to a better place. One of those stories in my short story book was called Getting to a Better Place. I love that title. It's like, how do we get there? And so I really feel like the dynamic that has brought us to this place needs to change. And for us to get to a better place, the male establishment needs to look at things through a different lens. And so I use, throughout the book, I use domestic and romantic relationship scenarios to show how, if you can approach those problems in this way, you can then take that to the global stage where you will deal with your women partners as allies toward a new place. The subtitle of the book is A Way for Men and Women to Chart a New Path. And and women is in parentheses because it's really for men to listen to, but women are your natural allies. And if we want to change the dynamic that has brought us to this really negative place, honestly, then we need to take steps. And I do believe that small, simple steps lead to the bigger changes that we want. So it isn't so like overwhelming. How do I change the world? Well, start with something really small. Remember your partner's birthday, because your partner is you. We are each other, right? So we start treating each other like we would ourselves. And no saying, I hate myself. There's no room for self-hatred here. We've got work to do. So,
well, that's just it. It's like starting with yourself and knowing that, owning it. That goes for all of us, men and women, because when we know our, and I think too, just women realizing, in the business world, you see a lot of women trying to show up as men because that's the recipe. And I talk about all the time, women showing up for ourselves and others unapologetically as ourselves. We have the men part in there. We need the women part as women, not, we don't need more of the same in a different outfit. We need women as women, but there's got to be safe spaces for that to happen. So it requires allies and where you feel safe, but supporting each other. And like, when I'm successful, it creates more space for you to be successful. rather than the competition part. But that's all patriarchal fed. They want us to beat up on each other so there's not multiples of us at the table. And instead, we're making room for each other and showing up as ourselves. I can't wait to dive into all your work. This is so good. We could go on forever. I'm looking at the time going, oh my gosh, we're almost in an hour. My last thought for today is identify 3 to 5 activities that nourish you and make sure those are incorporated into your day somehow. It doesn't have to be all of them. One of my activities that nourishes me is travel. I happen to be traveling right now, but I don't travel all the time, so I can't do that every day. But what's something within that grouping that is always incorporated? It can be 5 minutes. This doesn't have to take up your whole day. That really fills your cup, that helps you reset, that helps you be present and get you back to square, settles your nervous system, and helps you find that peace and contentment we've been talking about. Thank you so much, Carine and Jess, for being with me. I feel like we could have talked for hours. You all both have so many resources to share. I'm so happy to have you here and be able to share your voices with our audience. I look forward to sharing your future podcast episodes with our audience as well. Go back to our show notes, listeners. Find this information, how you can find and follow these women and their resources. There's going to be so much there. You don't want to miss it. Share it with your friends. But we hope that this helped you today and gave you some things to think about and gave you some things to share with others to think about. There's a ton of resources here today. Thank you for joining us on this Come As You Are panel. Take good care of yourselves, and we'll see you next time on Together We F.E.E.L.
Thank you so much for having us.
Absolutely.
Thank you.